Today's number 5 most urgent vulnerability on the Daily Ranked CVE Brief is CVE 2026-48907, affecting the JCE editor extension for Joomla. And this one earns its place because the issue is not just theoretical. It is listed in CISA's Known Exploited Vulnerabilities catalog. It carries a critical 9.8 CVSS score, and its EPSS percentile is 0.99575, meaning it sits extremely high in the forecasted likelihood of exploitation compared with other vulnerabilities. The core risk is blunt. Unauthenticated users can create new editor profiles, and that can ultimately lead to PHP code upload and execution. If you run Joomla with JCE anywhere public-facing, this belongs in the immediate triage queue. This channel is about what to patch first, ranked by real exploitation signal, CISA KEV, first EPSS, and CVSS, and today, JCE is the one to verify fast. CVE 2026-48907 is a vulnerability in the JCE editor extension for Joomla. The official NVD description says, a vulnerability in the JCE editor extension for Joomla allows the creation of new editor profiles for unauthenticated users, ultimately resulting in PHP code upload and execution. The assigned weakness is CVE-284, improper access control. In plain English, that means the application is not enforcing the right permission boundary before allowing a sensitive action. Here, the sensitive action is creating editor profiles. Editor profiles are not just cosmetic preferences. In an editor extension, profile settings can influence what capabilities a user gets inside content editing and upload workflows. If an unauthenticated person can create one, the application's trust model breaks. The danger is not merely account confusion. The chain described by NVD ends in PHP code upload and execution, which can cross from application compromise into server-side control. Verdict: this is critical because it is remotely reachable and does not require an attacker to already have an account. The CVSS vector is CVSS 3.1, network attack vector, low attack complexity, no privileges required, no user interaction, unchanged scope, and high impact to confidentiality, integrity, and availability. The two metrics that matter most for defenders are no privileges required and no user interaction. No privileges required means the vulnerable behavior is reachable before authentication, which removes one of the biggest practical barriers. No user interaction means exploitation does not depend on tricking an administrator or editor into clicking something. Combine that with high impact across confidentiality, integrity, and availability, and the 9.8 score makes sense. This is the kind of vulnerability where waiting for a normal maintenance window may be too slow, especially on internet-facing Joomla deployments. The real-world danger is amplified by CISA KEV status. KEV does not mean a vulnerability might be attractive someday. It means it has been recognized as known exploited. For defenders, that changes the posture from watch and plan to verify and remediate. The EPSS percentile 0.99575 points in the same direction. This vulnerability ranks near the very top of modeled exploitation likelihood relative to other CVEs. The impact is also straightforward. If PHP code can be uploaded and executed through a web-exposed Joomla extension, an attacker may be able to run server-side code in the context available to the application. From there, the risk can include content tampering, data exposure, disruption, persistence attempts, or using the compromised site as a foothold. The exact outcome depends on how the Joomla site and hosting environment are configured, but the defensive takeaway is clear. Assume exposed vulnerable instances are high priority. At a conceptual level, the attack path starts with reachability. A Joomla site using the JCE editor extension is exposed to the network, and the vulnerable function fails to properly restrict who can create editor profiles. Because the CVSS vector says network reachable, low complexity, no privileges, and no user interaction, defenders should assume the risky path does not require a valid login or a social engineering event. The important thing to understand is why editor profile creation matters. In content management systems, editor profiles often control editing capabilities, file handling, and what types of actions are permitted inside the editor experience. If an unauthenticated user can create or influence such a profile, that can open a path into upload behavior that should never be available to the public. NVD states the end result can be PHP code upload and execution. We are not walking through exploit mechanics here. The defensive model is enough. Unauthorized profile creation becomes unauthorized server-side code execution. To check exposure, start with asset inventory, not assumptions. Identify every Joomla site you operate, including older sites, microsites, staging environments, and forgotten subdomains. Then confirm whether the JCE editor extension from Widget Factory Limited/JCE is installed. Do not rely only on your primary production site. Extensions often persist across cloned environments and legacy deployments. Next, compare your installed JCE version and configuration against the vendor's security guidance for CVE 2026-48907. The exact affected and fixed versions are not provided in the data for this brief, so use the vendor advisory or official JCE update information for that determination. Also check whether the site is reachable from the internet and whether any administrative or content management functions are publicly accessible. A non-public system still needs remediation, but an internet-facing Joomla site with JCE installed should move to the front of the queue because the vulnerability is unauthenticated and kev-listed. The first action is to apply the vendor-provided fix or update for JCE, according to the official guidance. If you cannot immediately patch, reduce exposure while you work the change. Restrict access to management and content editing surfaces where possible. Remove unused or duplicate JCE installations, and disable anything you do not need. Because this issue ends in PHP upload and execution, review file upload controls and make sure upload locations are not allowed to execute server-side code unless explicitly required. Also, verify file system permissions so the web application has only the access it needs. After updating, do not stop at checking the version number. Confirm that the vulnerable behavior is no longer present according to vendor instructions, and review whether any unexpected editor profiles, file changes, or uploaded PHP files appeared before the patch. For KEV-listed issues, remediation and compromise assessment should happen together. For detection, look for signs that should be rare or impossible in a normal environment. Start inside Joomla and JCE administration. Unexpected editor profiles, profile changes made outside approved maintenance, or profiles that do not map to known business roles deserve review. In web server and application logs, watch for unauthenticated traffic interacting with JCE-related profile or upload functionality, especially repeated attempts from unfamiliar sources. On disk, search for PHP files appearing in upload, media, or content areas where executable code should not normally be placed. Also monitor for the web server process doing unusual things, unexpected file writes, abnormal child processes, outbound connections that do not match the site's normal behavior, or sudden changes to application files. Normal should look boring. Known administrators making planned changes, expected uploads matching allowed content types, and no executable scripts appearing in user-controlled content locations. If you find suspicious indicators, preserve logs and files before cleanup. Bottom line, CVE 2026-48907 is today's number 5 on our ranked list because the signals line up. It affects the JCE editor extension for Joomla. It is a CVE-284 improper access control issue. The official description says, unauthenticated users can create new editor profiles that ultimately lead to PHP code upload and execution. It scores 9.8 critical, and it is on CISA's Known Exploited Vulnerabilities catalog. If you run Joomla, inventory for JCE now, check vendor guidance for affected versions and fixes, patch quickly, and review for signs of prior abuse. If this brief helped you prioritize, subscribe to the Daily Ranked CVE Brief. Every day, we focus on what to patch first, ranked by real exploitation signal, CISA KEV, First EPSS, and CVSS. The full ranked report is linked in the description.